Friends, guitar nerds, animals of all shapes and sizes, anybody watching out there, welcome to the studio. Hey, check it out. I recently had my friends at the lovely Racksystems in North Hollywood, California, make me a new pedal board. We're going to call this a medium pedal board. Some of you will find it medium small, some of you will say that's really big, but anyways, I'll call it my medium-sized pedal board. And I just kind of wanted to show it to you and tell you about it. You heard it on all the guitar parts in that track at the beginning of the video. Within the first few days of me getting it, I made a bunch of different presets and was just playing around with sounds and stuff like that. And I thought, I'll just record a little tune with a whole bunch of different guitar tones. Then I can walk you through, some of the pedals and sort of what I was thinking with why I chose the pedals, why I had this board built at all. We're going to cover all that in this video. So let's just start off with a description of why I need this pedal board. I've got my main pedal board, which is actually a 30-inch Friedman board. This is 24, by the way, so a 24-inch tempo board. The main board is under the desk right now. It's a Friedman pedal board. It's a little bit bigger, got a few more kind of options on it and stuff like that, but I can almost do with this 24-inch board everything that I can do with the bigger board. Just sans it doesn't have an H90 on it. It doesn't have a volume pedal or a wah pedal on it. Otherwise, I've kind of got everything covered on this board that I can do on the big board. So the reason I had this board built was to just get something a little more compact, but also because my main pedal board is often in transit, I find. So I'll fly out, to do a tour or some gigs, and then that board will be in cartage or freight. It always takes like a week or two, sometimes up to a couple weeks after you get back from a tour to get your gear back. In that time, I'll return here to the studio and maybe I've got like some other gigs I need to do, or I want to make some video demos here in the studio. And I find myself scrambling, plugging in individual pedals. Oh, I need a tuner, maybe a compressor. Oh, and then I need, power supplies and all that stuff, patch cables. And I was like, why don't I just get a second little board made? So I've always got a board here in the studio. There's always, one available for out on the road then. It's just good to have two, I find. So my criteria for having this second board built, number one, I wanted it to be at least a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter and more portable than the other board. I wanted to drop a little bit of weight, just to have it, a little bit easier to kind of haul around. And sure enough, it's not very heavy at all. These tempo boards are fantastic, by the way. I think this one, the 24-inch one, is 3.5 pounds when it's got nothing on it. So super duper light and still quite sturdy. The other thing I like about the tempo boards is that you can get all these different kind of patch bay options for the sides of them, so that's really nice. So I was able to get a couple of these 1/4-inch patch bays for the side, as well as a MIDI jack right here. There's a power jack in the other side here, and then actually you can see on this side of the board there's nothing. So I could take these sort of spacers out here and put in other ins and outs. That's really nice about the tempo boards. They're kind of custom configurable with whatever kind of ins and outs you need. If you need XLRs or TRS or just regular, 1/4-inch, they got you covered. So some more criteria for this board. I wanted it to do almost everything that my big board could do. So as much as I could sort of pack on here, as many sounds and different kinds of effects, I didn't want to compromise too much from what my big board is able to do. So the things I'm missing are a volume pedal, a wah, and also sometimes I'll use like an H9 or an H90 from Eventide for harmony effects. Don't have that on this board, but I figured that's always something that I can sort of put off to the side. If I need to add a wah pedal, add a volume pedal, or add an H90 or other harmony style pedal, not too hard to configure that. I also wanted to be able to do presets just like on my big board, and I wanted a comfortable workflow, something that I'm used to. So that's why I went with a Musicom Lab switcher, because that's what I use on the big board. I use their Mark 6 switcher on my big board. This is their FX 10D, and it's basically the same with a few less features, few less loops and things like that. But it feels really like I'm working on my big board when I'm switching on this board, because I'm just used to their switchers and sort of their ecosystem and how it operates. FX 10D also has a great computer editor that's really easy to use. So you just plug it in via USB to your laptop, and you can edit and do everything you need to do, create presets and name presets and everything, make set lists and all that good kind of stuff right on the editor for the FX 10D. Another important criteria point for this pedal board, I wanted to be able to do parallel effects like I've been doing on my big board. So if you guys are familiar with my big board, I've been using a EVH delay from Boss as well as the Eventide H90, and I've got them in a parallel mixer, and I'm able to blend in effects while always having a dry path go through. So that's the stuff in the effects loops. of my amplifiers, the kind of delays and reverbs and stuff, I've always got that dry path. So there's zero latency there, and I'm just blending in the delay and the reverb via the mixer. So RJM makes this little mixer right here called the micro line mixer, and you can do that with it. And look how small it is. It's really tiny. It's awesome. So that was another, important thing to me, that I could, run a send from my amp's effects loop and come into the board and then come out of the board stereo or mono back to the amp's effects return, and that dry signal from the amp would always be running through, and then I can just blend in via the dig here and via the Illumine reverb here from Nunaber, blend in some reverb and delay, and these are in kill dry mode. The tone always stays super pure. It's awesome. So some of the other criteria, I wanted the sort of the main food groups of guitar effects, of course. So basically what have I got here? I've got compression, fuzz, boost, a tuner, of course. I've got an overdrive. I've got chorus. And then with the Strymon Zelza here, I've got phaser, flanger, and chorus as well. So another, some more modulation stuff going on there. Delay, of course, via the dig, and then reverb with the Illumine. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I've got a Tone X on here as well. So the Tone X is a capture box, of course. So, you can put basically the sounds of different overdrives or boosts or distortions into this little pedal, or even full-on amplifier and speaker cabinet and microphone captures. So this thing is kind of like, an amp sim, a distortion sim, an overdrive. And I just really thought it'd be cool to have on the board for that kind of versatility. If I want the sound of a certain distortion pedal or the sound of a certain amplifier, I can have that right on the board. And if you're thinking like I was when I decided to put this on here, I can even run direct with this pedal board if I want to. I can literally use this board direct into a recording interface or right to a PA system or a power amp, and have full-on amp tone coming out of the Tone X if I want to. So it seemed like a great idea to put this little Tone X1 pedal on here for the versatility and those possibilities wherever I might need to run direct. I mainly use amp, overdrive, and distortion, so I didn't really put a distortion pedal per se other than the Tone X, which can work like one. Didn't put a distortion pedal per se on here though. I can channel switch my amps with a jack here on the side that is coming out of the switching output of the Effects 10D. So no problem, I can actually channel switch my PT15 or any amp that has a 1/4 inch, kind of function switched jack on it for the channel switching. This board will totally do that. Per preset on the Effects 10D, clean channel, lead channel, whatever I want. Let's take a look at the bottom of the board for a second here. You can see Racksystems does a really beautiful job. Basically, I got the Pedal Power 3 here for power. Look at all that power. This is why I chose it, because I could power everything on the board with this. So this thing's awesome. Pedal Power 3 from Voodoo Lab, super cool. It'll also work anywhere in the world. It's switching power supply, so it'll go from 100 to 240 volts. I've got a Morningstar MIDI distribution box here. This is for like going to the dig and the Zelza and the Illumine. It'll send all the MIDI over 1/8 inch. And then there's also a MIDI jack on the side of the board. That'll go to my PT100 amps if I want to use this board for MIDI switching my amplifiers. There's this other little box here. This is a Samson isolation transformer. This is on the second stereo output of the little RJM mixer. So if I'm using 2 amplifiers in stereo and I get a ground loop, I can just flip this little switch right here. I'm just gonna go through the individual pedals really quick here, and then I'm gonna get to some sound examples so you guys can hear the different sounds from the song at the beginning of the video soloed outside of the mix, and I'll detail some of the pedals and what I was doing sound-wise. So the guitar comes in the side of the board here, and the first thing it hits is the Polytune 3 from TC. This is, of course, my tuner and also serves as a mute. Okay, next up in line, we hit the superconductor. This is a boost from Crazy Tube Circuits. This pedal does Rangemaster style boost, Echoplex style boost, has clean boost in it as well. Really great boost pedal. So these are running in front of the switcher. The next thing that happens is the signal comes out of the superconductor and goes into the input of the Effects 10D switcher. Okay, then I've got a bunch of pedals in loops on the switcher, so I can switch them in and out and use them as I see fit per preset. So the first loop has the Keeley Compressor Mini in it. This is just a great, simple compressor with a level and compression control. There's no attack or release or anything like that. Just really, really simple. Sounds great, does what I want it to do. I really like it. In loop 2, Starlight Fuzz from Crazy Tube Circuits, one of my favorite fuzz pedals of all time. Such a good fuzz pedal, especially for people that don't get fuzz. That's what I always say. It's kind of like an overdrive with the gain down low, becomes a distortion as you turn up the gain control more, and then morphs into, oh, it's definitely a big kind of gnarly fuzz tone when you turn up the gain. And it just sounds great in front of a clean channel, Just a great alternate solo tone if you already really like your amp's distortion channel, but sometimes you want to add something that sounds a little bit like a big muff or something like that. It really can do that sound great. It's just very versatile. Loop 3 is the Archer from J Rocket. This is my Klon on this board. I always like having a Klon style pedal. Archers always sound great. It's a great version of that sound, the Centaur sound. The Centaur sound. Loop 4 is the Anodyne Chorus from Providence. I've loved this pedal ever since I first got it and made a video for it back in my old studio years ago. Just a really, really good sounding analog mono chorus pedal. Sounds terrific. It's got that really gooey analog warm thing when you turn it on. It just sounds like what you want from like a chorus pedal from the 70s or 80s or something. That's what it sounds like in spades. Just super cool. Loop 5 is the Zelza from Strymon. So this is what they call a multi-dimensional phaser. It'll do 4-stage phasing a la sort of a phase 90, I guess. It'll do 6-stage as well, kind of like a phase 100. But you can do more than phasing with it, actually. You can do flanging and chorus with it, and it sounds really good. So it's a kind of an underappreciated pedal from Strymon, I think. Multi-modulation pedal. And of course, this pedal, like a lot of their new pedals, is MIDI. I mean, you can actually store up to 300 presets. So if you find a sound you really like, you can simply send it a MIDI program change. Next time you recall that program on your MIDI switcher, it'll pop up with that sound. So really, really cool, versatile modulation pedal, the Zelza. Loop 6 has the Tone X1 in it. So once again, this can serve as like an amplifier, and I can A/B 2 sounds with that clean, dirty, it's like a little mini amp modeling pedal, really. I can also use it like an overdrive or a distortion. So that's Loop 6. Now coming out of Loop 6, that pedal will return back into the switcher, and then I can take the output of the switcher, and there's a jack on the side here that'll go to the front of my amplifier most of the time. That's the way I would do it. Then if I took the effects send from my amplifier, I can come back into the board, and then I'm going to hit this little RJM mixer right here. And these two pedals are in loops of the mixer. So I've got the Dig from Strymon. That's a dual digital delay that kind of captures the sounds of old, SDE style delays or TC2290, all those old great rack delays. And it really is like having two individual great old school rack units in one pedal. You can easily run them in cascading in series into one another, or you can run them in parallel, so you've got separate delays in the right and the left channel, totally independent. It's very cool. Then I've got the Lumine Reverb. This is from Nunaber. I made a video of this years ago, and I just think this is a terrific and underappreciated pedal. I believe Nunaber was sold to Quilter, so you can still get this pedal, although I haven't seen too many people use them. I know John Mayer got one, I think. But anyway, you can store up to 50 presets in it, and it's got those lush, awesome reverbs that Nunaber became known for. The wet reverb, the wet version 2 and 3, and it also does great like hulls, plates, springs, all that good stuff. Shimmer reverb. At the end of the song, at the beginning of the video, and also in a couple other spots, because maybe I overused it, but you can A/B between two sounds in the Illumine, and so I had like a big, massive reverb sound dialed up, and I could just simply hold this button right here, and then it'd pan from the A setting to the B setting, and in the B setting, I had it just kind of an infinite tail reverb. Now, because all the jacks are on the side here, and I kind of mentioned using an effects loop and amplifier with a loop and all that stuff, I could also run everything in front really easily, of say like a twin reverb or something like that, by just patching the output of the switcher into kind of the post-path return. And I do this on all my pedal boards. I do this on my big pedal board as well. I love it because if I want to configure this board to run, everything kind of in series in front of an amplifier, I can easily do that by just adding a patch cable on the side of the board. Anyway, let's get to some of the sounds now from that song at the beginning of the video. I'm going to detail on screen what was going on, what pedals I was using for a bunch of those different parts. So you can kind of hear the different parts. I'm using my PT15 for all the sounds in this video. I was running my guitar into the pedal board, output of the pedal board to the front of the PT15. I then took the load box output of the PT15, because of course it's got a load box in it, ran that into the post path of the pedal board, came stereo out of the mixer and just went right into my recording interface. That's another way I can use this board. It's pretty cool. Very similar though to if I was using two amplifiers and running, the post effects in the effects loops of the amplifiers. Okay, let's get on with it. Here we go. For the first part in the song, I was using the Compressor Mini from Keeley. I'm using the Anodyne Chorus from Providence, and also the Dig from Strymon for delay. I'm using the clean channel on the PT15, and I'm using kind of the middle pickup position, or like 2 single coils together on my guitar, really. And for this, I used a special sound in the Dig that I just love. I kind of configured it to do the Andy Timmons Halo style delay. So it's like 2 independent delays, but they're in series. They're feeding into one another. They kind of cascade in a really beautiful way and just create a really nice ambience around the sound. And I was using quite a bit of modulation on the delay as well for this sound. For the second little part in the song at the beginning, I had the tone control rolled all the way back on my guitar because I wanted it to be just a really dark sound. I rolled in with the volume control. And for this, I was using the lead channel on my amplifier. I'm using the Archer in front for overdrive. So lots of overdrive, but a real warm sound with the tone control rolled down on the guitar. And I was using a great big reverb sound from the Illumine. For the third part in the song, I'm using actually a flange, but out of the Zelza. So, you know, it's called a phaser, but it'll do really cool flanging and chorusing sounds as well. So I've got it set for kind of a nice light flange. I'm also using compression via the mini compressor and a little bit of reverb from the Illumine. Let's check it out. For part 4 in the song, I'm playing a little lead part. I'm on the neck pickup of my Sir Signature PT Custom HSS guitar, and I'm using the Starlight Fuzz for this, and I love this sound. You can really hear the character of the Starlight on this, just a terrific sounding fuzz. I'm using stereo delay in the Dig, so like 2 independent stereo delays, one in the left channel, one in the right channel. And I've got the Dig configured to actually be dry in its A mode, but then you can kick it over to a B mode, and it kicked in this super long reverb tail. So you can go from like no reverb to tons of reverb. Or you could go from a little reverb to a little more reverb, whatever you want. But I went for a really dramatic version and just kicked it into a super long, almost infinite reverb. Let's check it out. So that's really cool, and you can do that, once again, just by holding this A-B switch on the Illumine and kind of, you know, going in between, morphing in between 2 sort of preset sounds per preset. For the 5th part in the song, I'm using 4-stage phasing from the Zelza, so very sort of, you know, chewy kind of analog sounding, like a Phase 90 set with a kind of a medium speed. And then I'm also doing a kind of a timed delay thing in the Dig. I think I was doing like, I don't know if it's I think it's a dotted eighth and a quarter. And I've got the delays bouncing around in stereo. It's in one of the parallel modes, so you can really hear the delays kind of playing off one another. When I start muting, you can really hear the timed aspect of the delays because they're really, you know, tuned right into the tempo of the song. For part 6 in the song, I did just a quick little lead part, and I used the envelope phasing mode on the Zelza. So in this mode, basically it'll respond to your pick attack and kind of almost like an auto-wah. So you can kind of play with your volume control on the guitar and sort of set the threshold, and you know, you'll get the sound to kind of open up almost like a wah. And there's a little bit of stereo echo going on in this sound as well. Part 7 is a lead sound. For this, it's pretty much just a straight up stereo echo. I also use the Archer, and I'm going in front of the distortion channel of my PT15 amp with the gain cranked up pretty good. So I had it up to about 3/4 of the way up on the amp, on the gain, and then adding overdrive via the Archer. So for kind of like infinite sustain and kind of, you know, shreddy. And once again, I did the Illuminate reverb trick where I went from an A setting to a B setting, and at the end of the tune, I added that big old reverb tail by holding down the A-B switch. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to show you the superconductor boost that I've got on the board. I set it for a Rangemaster style boost, so it's got a real kind of upper mid to treble sort of edge to it, and it made kind of a gnarly sound that I liked in front of the Dirty Rhythm channel of my PT15 amp. So that's it. That's the Pedalboard. Thanks for watching my video on my brand new board made by Racksystems. After all these years, I'm still just a nerd for all this, and it's really fun and exciting to get a new board built. Guitar rigs are like snowflakes, right? No two are the same. So it's really fun to hear all the pedals interact and, you know, get different ideas for sounds and experiment. And that inspires new ideas for parts and for music. I just still really enjoy this stuff. Love to hear your comments, see what you think. I know some of you are gonna say this is too complicated and, you know, it's a lot, but like, it's a simple board for some people, and for other people it'll probably be way over the top. And once again, that's the beauty of it. Guitar rigs are like snowflakes. If you got any questions, leave it in the comments. I'll be sure to take a look and answer what I can. Or join me on Sunday Live every Sunday, 11:45 a.m. Pacific time, if you want to ask me any questions about the board on my YouTube channel. Thanks again to Racksystems. You guys did an amazing job. Dave Friedman, Jamie, love you. You guys always kill it, and it's such a great board. I love it. Thanks to all the folks from the pedal companies involved here. You're all really good people. I know everybody, you know, involved in the making of all this stuff, and that's just magical to me. I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. Keep on rocking out there. I'm Pete Thorn. Over and out.